All right, everybody. Welcome back to our third show of Peach Pit. Today we're going to talk about Albany Review, and then we're also going to preview Columbus. Before we get started, I have to make the usual disclaimer. Any views or opinions shared on the show are solely that of the individual contributor and do not reflect the views of Peach Pit, any FRC team, First, Georgia First, or any of their affiliates and sponsors.
So, with that disclaimer out of the way, welcome to Peach Pit. The idea behind the show is to serve as an FRC talk show that focuses primarily on the Peachtree District. We're going to be talking about a variety of topics, so don't be surprised if you see us drop some hot takes. Ultimately, we're hoping to provide some entertaining and engaging discussion for the community. So, let's begin with our host introductions. My name is Anupam Goli, and I'm a mentor for Team 1746 Auto.
My name is Sunny, and I'm retired.
I'm Kellen, and I'm a mentor for Team Auto 1746.
All right. So before we really get into our Albany review, Kellen has a public service request to make.
Yeah, so we've received some requests on one of our previous episodes to either show more video or show more pictures of the robots we're talking about, and then kind of looking into doing that for those publicly accessible photos. We're realizing that there aren't all that many posted for Georgia robots, so we're doing a call to action for the PCH district community to call out to teams, asking any of those teams that do very thorough pit scouting and getting pictures of every robot out there. If you can encourage your scouting teams or encourage your media people to grab those photos and see if you can get them uploaded to the Blue Line. So. All those robots are represented and have some picture to them. So they're more immediately represented on the blue lines when people are browsing through, seeing what robots belong to what.
And it's really nice to also be able to pull up pictures of each robot as we talk about them.
Yep.
Hopefully. Okay. So let's go to our Albany review, where the Peachtree District went down south for their southernmost qualifier. The winners of the event were Team 832, 6829, and 7499. The finalists were 3635, 1683, and 6177. The Chairman's Award winners were 1002, and the Engineering Inspiration winner was 1683. So unfortunately, Kyle's not here, or else we would have had a massive discussion about Chairman's. But just to jump right into it, I think this is the first Chairman's Award for 1002 in what?
I think since 2007?
I think they had said it had been about a 10-year gap, or at least 10 years since they won the previous one. So
2007 was my rookie year.
Yeah.
So it's been a while. But yeah, so it's good to see they got in. Unfortunately, 1683 didn't get in, which they did win it last year. So I don't know if it's necessarily a slowdown in their program, but it is kind of interesting to see how things sort of fluctuate. Yeah.
I feel like maybe 1002 might have just come out a little bit stronger. I know they've got some pretty good chairman's prep. Kyle pushes them pretty hard on that front. So it might have just come down to who was more prepared and who was able to give a better presentation at the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So on the robotics competitive front, 832 and 6829 and 7499 did win this weekend. This was 832's first banner since, I think, 2017, when they won Gainesville.
Yeah.
Is that?
Let me check real quick.
That sounds about right. But I think they've been knocking on the door for events for quite a while, right? Just in recent memory, they were first seed at district champs. They were first seed at Gainesville. And were finalists? No, quarterfinals.
What year are we talking?
Gainesville this past
year. They weren't first seed. They were we were on the 3 seed and
yeah, Oscar
we were.
Was, they
were on our last cap.
Yeah, third seed and finalists. Yep.
Yeah, and then you guys went with Oscar and were finalists. Yeah, so they've definitely been knocking on the door when it comes to more wins.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You were right that this is their first Blue Banner pickup since Gainesville of 2017. If y'all remember the crazy 1648, 1746, 832 run.
Yeah.
It was I think a 10-match run for going to 3 deep in every series and having one replay in there. So that was a bit of a stretch.
Yeah. But 832 is definitely one of those teams that nowadays you see they're at the playoffs in every event they go to in the district. They've definitely upped their game, and I think it's starting to pay off, especially with this latest win at Albany. They were pretty dominant at that cargo game, and they were consistent with that level 3 climb.
Yeah. It's kind of hard for me to tell, but it looks like they like got pretty good at Albany when it came to cargo. Like, it seemed like at Gainesville they could do about half of the cargo ship almost on their own, right? But at Albany, it looked like they were able to handle most of the cargo ship on their own, and the 6829 could do mostly hatches. What?
We got some video up actually of the first finals match.
Oh, okay, cool.
But yeah,
So what are we looking at?
right now we're just looking at the Sandstorm, but in a couple of seconds you'll see 832 get started in their cargo game, and yeah, they were one of the quickest cyclers out there with cargo, and I was kind of like not disappointed, but I don't know if they really sped up their climb a ton, but it was still really consistent, and that really gave them that number 1 seed.
Yeah. So 6829 was also on their lines. So first pick of the first seed, that's definitely a ton of points. And this is their first banner in team history. Only a matter of time for them, I think, because last year they were finalists twice, at Albany and then at Duluth.
Right.
And this year they're with a pretty good-looking robot, to say the least.
Yeah, they seem like one of those programs that's going to continue to develop that continuity. It's going to keep showing up with some pretty solid robots on a year-to-year basis. So
Yeah.
This is, I think, another extension upon where they were able to come out last year. But yeah, definitely some quality robots coming out of that 6829 program.
Yeah.
I think if you go and look at their match video, right, you can see they're actually 6829's using some sort of alignment with vision, and they have some automation going. So I thought that was really neat that they had all that in the works, and they're only going to get faster at that.
Yeah. I actually really like the simplicity of their mechanisms, right? So I think their hatch mechanism is just a beak. There's nothing really complex going on with things flying out to the side. I think it's just a little beak hook thing. And they use mostly automation and the elevator to kind of come in, pick it up, scoop it out, go in, drop it off, things like that.
That's the name of the game. If you want to, reduce your cycle time, right? Have simple mechanisms and just automate the crap out of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, repeatability is a big deal. Yeah, when you're talking about consistently winning matches, if you can repeatedly do the same thing on a match-to-match basis, obviously it's you got to repeatedly do the right things.
Yes.
Yeah,
74.99
yeah,
trying to
repeatedly disconnecting from the field is not what we're talking about here. But yeah, for what they're able to pull out for both hatches, cargo, they look like a really solid robot this season.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just laughing at 74.99 on the field, trying to send it onto level 2.
Oh yeah, at the end of the match.
Yeah, honestly, I really hate when teams do that very early in the season and then they post it on Chief Delphi, hey, just look at this, right? Because there was a discussion where teams were oh, we'll just send it on to level 2. People who can't easily align hatches and do that are not going to be able to align a ramp shot.
So
right?
when I was just talking about consistency, that is not not the solution.
Do you have Finals 1 pulled up?
That's what I have right now.
Yeah, so go towards the end of Finals 1. And it's just 74.99. They just I applaud their persistence, if anything, right? Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say they made it a few times before, in semis and in quarters, but I think they just kind of missed here in finals.
Well, they missed 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, they just
me personally, I am a bit more conservative. So when I see it miss once or twice, it's hey guys, let's take the 3 and let's close this match out.
Yeah.
But I think they didn't even get any at that point. I mean, they still won, so it's.
Yeah,
So
well,
it's really whatever. But
that first finals match was actually really close. It was the
Yeah.
closest one of them.
Well, and I think that's something I think that I haven't seen discussed too much is that it's for an event they didn't have very many level 3 climbers. So you saw what was it, Oscar, 64-71, and then
69-19.
yeah, 69-19 is the three level 3ers. But what I think is particularly interesting, and I can't remember the particular series of events, but cool to see that the 7 Alliance was one that made it all the way to elims without one of those climbers on it. So they played the right game and yeah, really pushed some close finals matches even without a level 3 climber.
Yeah, like the 7th seed, it's hard to really say because I feel like they like really found their stride in the semis, right, where they sort of got used to how each other played. I was really surprised by all 3 robots, to be perfectly frank, right? I think 36-35 really proved their salt when it came to cargo. 1683 also really did it. And 6177 sort of came in clutch with the hatch panels. I think they were always like really good, but during quals they were sort of experimenting and trying to push themselves a little harder.
Yeah.
But then during limbs, when they had to settle in, they like really settled in and like drove home.
Yeah, they found their role and they kept with the role. I'm actually going to pull up some video again of the semifinals match so we can show the viewers what we're talking about here. Yeah. But I was especially impressed with the turnaround on 6177 from Dalton to Columbus in that 1 week.
Yeah.
They like went out, they simplified, or I don't know if they changed their hatch mechanism. It looks like it was completely different, or at the very least, functionally it was much better. And they just went in, kept playing their hatch game, and by the end of it, they were scoring quite a few of those hatches.
Yeah, it is a little unfortunate that I don't think that they've qualified for state champs.
Well, technically nobody had, or
just
only a couple
teams.
of teams have at this point.
So
3 teams, right?
Yeah.
Historically speaking, it looks like they're in trouble for that points cutoff.
Historically, the cutoff is right at about 44, 45 points, and 6177 currently has 38. Last I checked.
So, yeah.
So they're not in a very good position, even though they probably deserve to be in that running, right? But that's just kind of how it goes, honestly.
I mean, to quote Kyle Fender, you got to play the district.
Play the district.
Yeah.
Where are you, Kyle? I miss you.
Yeah, I miss you, man. Right.
But what was I going to say? I was going to say one more thing. But I actually think the 7th seed might have actually won if 1683 didn't like. I think a part of their drivetrain got really messed up.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it was towards the end of that first match you saw, at least saw the refs kind of inspecting it just to see if there was any potential issue with it. But I don't think they.
I mean, like there like definitely was an issue, but I don't know if it was something like maybe one of the other robots interfered or something, because they had their eye on it like for quite a while. But they went down in finals 1. I think they lost by 3 points. And I have to think that if 1683 would have put in like a couple more pieces of cargo and then gone for the level 1, like that's your difference right there.
Yeah.
And then in finals 2, they were in trouble right from the get-go. So
yeah, it seemed like a couple of the robots might have had some like issues going on.
Yeah.
That seems to be kind of a common theme, right? We saw that at Dalton too, like in finals 2, 2 of the robots just kind of died for a little bit. Yeah. Like, I don't know what's going on, but teams, remember, you're playing 12 qual matches, and if you're making it to finals, you're playing at least 6 additional playoff matches. Build your robots robustly and make sure your pit crew can fix it too.
Well, it's always been a struggle being in a district system, and especially at Albany, where match turnarounds are a little quicker.
Yeah.
And then when you go into eliminations, like there just is virtually no turnaround, right? So even if you have a minor problem, like you like lose a chain in a match, rechaining a robot between matches or in quals isn't that big of a deal. But you have 6 minutes to do it in eliminations. It's not going to happen. Right. So it's kind of interesting. I actually read on 148's blog, JVN's blog, that they're in the district system for the first time this year, and they went to an event that had 30 teams. Mm-hmm. And so they had to put a little bit more thought into actually like, how do we deal with these quicker turnarounds that they didn't get at regionals?
Yes, right. Switching from like at least a 50 or 60 team event to a 30 team, a bit of a transition to get used to.
And I know, like back in Gainesville, when we were like, kind of wiring and coding our robot pretty much there. Like those turnaround times were insane. We like barely got any like testing or work done between matches. It was like going back to the pit, get a new battery, and oh, they're calling us back to the field.
Yeah.
So I actually kind of wonder, would it be a better idea for Georgia First to slow things down, right? And the only way to really slow things down would be to have people play less matches. Right? So right now everybody gets 12. But I don't know if the 12 is a very good experience for a lot of teams because you're rushing, you're constantly like going full throttle.
Right.
And a lot of teams use events to improve, test things out, things like that. Would it be a little bit better if we went to 10, right?
What I'd almost like to see in regards to that, I like the number 12 just for getting out there and actually playing matches, assuming your team is intelligent enough to have a working robot when you come into the event.
That's a pretty big assumption for you, Kevin.
I'm just saying what, but what I'd like to see, I guess, is that there'd be any kind of more thorough practice field. I think over the last couple of years, switching to districts, we've had a bit smaller practice field areas. So I think some larger space there would allow more teams to use it on that in that minimal time between matches or during lunch or at the beginning or the end of the day. I don't know if it would also be possible, and I have to imagine there's all kinds of complexities for venue access, whatever else, but if the field would be set up to the point that on that load-in night, teams could actually access the field at all for getting out there and actually, I know this is a side effect of the district system and keeping events smaller, cheaper, faster, that kind of thing, but it would be nice to get out and get some practice matches in on a realistic field.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I feel like, yes, that'd be nice, but if you're in a system where you walk into an event and your robot needs work, or your match turnarounds are so quick that you don't even get to a full practice field, like, I feel like the returns are very minimal of anything that you put in front of it, right?
Yeah.
So that's actually why District Champs is so, like, active on its first day, because a lot of teams are good to go. A lot of teams are taking advantage of practice matches.
But for district events, it's like teams are still getting ready. And honestly, I think I would be fine with 11 matches and maybe reduce the cycle or increase the time between matches, or like push everything up and have, like, instead of starting matches at 10 a.m. or whatever, maybe start them at noon on the first day. There's like that would give a couple more hours for teams, because I know another big problem is that, especially at Gainesville, we don't have all the teams inspected by the time quals start, and that's a major hurdle for teams to get through, is inspection.
Yeah, I personally feel like adding more time, like up front, won't do a whole ton. Because teams seem to take the time they have.
Well, exactly, and I think next year's only gonna kind of show that. Without a bag. Yeah, you're gonna have more time, but I can promise you right now, there are a lot of teams. Come week 1 next year, they're gonna be about the same amount of teams struggling to get through inspection at their first event.
Yeah. I honestly think it might even be a little worse, because like with the bag day, you had that hard deadline, but now the deadline is the first day of competition. So like the teams that are on schedule and track will be ready, but then the teams that are kind of procrastinating, they might be in an even worse place.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put a pin in the bag day discussion,
right,
so we can stay on track. Going back to Albany, one thing that I noticed at Albany was that there were a ton of like everybots, right? Like I think Albany had 3 or 4 just explicit everybot designs from 118, when I think all the other events only had maybe 1 or 2. So what do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that's, obviously, was it a good move? Was it a bad move? Was it like?
I think it was a good move. It made all those teams like able to actually, the teams that did the everybot, they could actually score cargo, right? And they could actually play the game. And being able to play the game means you're thinking about how you can improve your performance at playing the game. So I think it's just it's a good move by those teams, and I think it will help like lay a competitive foundation for them that they can build upon. Yeah. So like this year they did everybot, maybe next year they'll expand a little bit and like try and do that reach goal that they've had in mind.
Yeah. like we've talked about, for just the awareness, I think, in the case of those teams, I'd like to imagine they'd done any kind of resource analysis saying, all right, how much time do we have? How much experience do our students have? What kind of budget do we have? I think it's really awesome that they settled on that particular design. Because again, it's the case of even during the season, and a lot of these teams just played for the first time, but I imagine a lot of them either, I know it was pointed out, a few of them made it a decent way into elims, but those teams, after getting beaten, are like, all right, now what else can we do to this robot to make it a little bit better for next time? So I think it's a really awesome entry level for teams to be able to play with, and as competitively as they did, I got to give it to them.
Yeah, and I think like rumor has it that it like might have been a coordinated effort to get like a lot of teams to do the every bot.
Yeah, I can't remember seeing too many of them at Gainesville or Dalton, but yeah, to see that many of them pop up down in Albany was something.
Yeah. They do have that DE field down at Albany, and I think that they host. I think the teams have like a shared kickoff, if I remember correctly. At the very least, they kind of share that DE field down in Albany, and that it honestly seems like a kind of a tight-knit community down there too, in FRC. Yeah,
which honestly, like you kind of have to look at this from like a realistic like view as well. That the south of Georgia is not a very competitive region, especially like in the grand scheme of things, Georgia's not a very competitive district. But in our little bubble, the South is not that competitive. So I think this does, like you mentioned, that it gives the South a foundation, right, that they can go. And so we'll have, I think, more teams from the South that show up that actually qualify for district championships, which is going to be big. And yeah, so I think it'll be pretty good. And I hope that teams in the South sort of take a very realistic approach to the games, right? And hopefully 118 keeps doing that every bot, you know.
Yeah.
All right. So we are in the mid-season officially, right? We are in the mid-game, not the end game.
I think all but 2 teams have played their first event.
Really?
Yeah, and I think one of those teams just didn't show up for that first event.
Well, I was going to say, if you look at the master rankings for the PCH district, I think there's a handful of teams down at the bottom, but yeah, a couple of them I think didn't show up for their first event. So there's a handful of them down here, and then another rookie up there that I don't think they showed up to their event. But.
That's unfortunate. But so thoughts on the season so far, right? Notable teams, strategies. What do you guys got?
I think one of the biggest impacts we're going to see, and we got, I think this weekend in Columbus is going to be the biggest kind of show of it, because I think you get the right density of teams for some of our better level 3 climbers, some of our more proficient scorers for hatches and cargo. So it'll be interesting to see how certain alliances get paired up, if we'll end up with a few really powerful alliances for a good shootout in elims, but you really see the how beneficial it is to have a level 3 climber. Those teams are always ranking in the top 8, get a lot more of a kind of pick in the direction they're going for what alliances they're working with. But it seems like those level 3 climbers are then going after, all right, who's the best scoring robot then that can complement me for hatches and cargo.
Yeah, I think in Albany for the first time we saw that the alliance that was built around the level 3 climber, so pretty much the first seed, they were kind of in trouble when they were facing some of the other alliances, especially when you look at like the 7th seed, right? Finals. So I think we're starting to see the game push to a point where just because you have a level 3 climber and the other alliance doesn't, that doesn't mean you're going to win, right? Yeah, you'll get that 1 RP, but it's starting to get to a point where if your alliance isn't really well-rounded, everybody has to contribute past the cargo ship, you're winning is not a guarantee with a level 3 climber now, especially compared to Gainesville.
And some of these smaller district events, you're going to see some thinner picks left available towards the end of the alliance selection. That's where you might see some of those better lower seed alliances because they're able to get some good robots down at those 7 and 9 or 7 and 10 picks.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So that's where I think the 7 alliance benefited from having some 3 well-rounded robots.
Yeah.
That weaker district events, you can definitely succumb to death by serpentine.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So I'm actually interested about this sandstorm period that first implemented this year. Like, I'm kind of on the fence because I'm not a huge fan of like the themes that first throws into the games, right? But I am kind of interested this year how teams can kind of sometimes not even have a camera. They just like look up at the screen and they drive their robots. So I personally feel like it offers a really good best of both worlds type of situation that you don't just have to have autonomous and have motion profiling figured out, right? You can set up a camera, you can get that working relatively well, and get that going. And I think First has been trying to get teams to use cameras for years, right? With first the Connect and now whatever the standard is and Limelight and things like that.
This game was like really built around using a camera and using vision. I mean, everything has a vision target on it. So you see the teams that have like some vision targeting, they use it in Sandstorm and they're able to, but they also augment it with like driver feedback and like using the actual camera feed. So I think Sandstorm has helped, the Sandstorm period in general has kind of helped teams that normally don't move in autonomous actually do something. But it also provides a good enough challenge for those teams that can just do the basic stuff to like get their vision targeting working and try and score as many times as possible.
Yeah.
And I don't know how many of our viewers have stood behind a driver's station this season, but if you have, you know how difficult it is to see like the back side of the rocket ship, or if you're in the middle driver's station that you can hardly see the cargo bays. So even outside of Sandstorm, that camera feedback, a lot of drivers are looking down to utilize that during the rest of the match in order to align with their targets. So
yeah, I'm not sure I'm a huge fan of that much vision being put into the game, right? So like, I think we've had games for a while where if you had good CV, good computer vision, you definitely had an advantage, right?
Right.
But I'm not sure if it's going too far to say that you need CV in order to be able to see the other side of the scoring target, right? That to me is pushing it too far. But I do like the fact that they let teams who don't have full autonomous, like the whole like coding thing figured out, to participate in the autonomous period.
Do something more than just drive forward and cross the line. Yeah.
Right. So, you know, kind of best of both worlds. Maybe like, I'm trying to think about how a previous game could have been done like this. I don't know, maybe last year's game. If they had a Sandstorm period last year, like Sandstorm, right? So you could go around, you could pick up cubes, you could place them, but you could only use cameras or like fully autonomous.
I don't know if it would have changed it too much. I think the teams that were doing motion profiling will just use motion profiling, and like that's how they'll do their multi-cube autos. And like the vision targets were pretty much useless. Let's be honest.
Well, right. The vision targets were pretty much useless, but I don't know. I feel like more teams would have gotten involved with like dropping off their one cube and like driving up to pick up a second one, right?
If you can get that camera feedback.
Yeah, that's true.
Like last season, there were only 2 teams I think that ever really even touched multi-cubes. That was Walton and 6177, right? I know personally from what my team was able to do, I would say that if we had a camera feedback, we probably could have gotten 2 cubes without much trouble. So I personally think it's a mechanism that I would like to see more in future games.
Yeah.
So the rest of the season, how do you guys think it's going to go? Because things are heating up, right? We have Columbus coming up, which is going to be the big event. Forsyth is statistically the weakest event on the books, but it might not be that bad. And then District Champs, right?
I think we're going to start seeing now like some expanded strategic play, especially at Columbus. I fully expect Columbus eliminations to be kind of representative of what district championship qualifications. You're not going to just win with the level 3 climb. You're going to have to play defense. You're going to have to plan who scores where, because there will be alliances that can. Maybe they can't like solo do the rocket, but they'll be able to combine to get a rocket and fill up most of the cargo ship. There will be alliances that strong at Columbus.
Yeah, that's where I think we'll continue to see level 3ers kind of own the day when it comes to rankings. I think when it comes to those level 3ers, as well as those top scoring robots like your Waltons, your 4910s, your 1102s, 1414s, you're going to see the handful of qualification matches where those teams actually play against each other. Those are going to be very influential matches for kind of shaking up those alliance standings to figure out who's going to be ranked in that top 8 and who gets to make that first overall selection.
Yeah, I think like from like a mathematical, statistical point of view, as you get more level 3 climbers involved, the less they actually start to matter, right? Not to say that if you have a level 3 climb, you should stop doing it, but just that if you have a level 3 and the other alliance has a level 3,
you got to wash and you got to find your point somewhere else.
Yeah.
You got to find your edge somewhere else.
Yeah. So that's where I think a lot of the teams that have been using it so far to drive their performance are going to find a little bit of a slowdown. Right?
Yeah, I agree with you there.
So just to call a few out, like not saying it in a negative way, but I'm talking like 6471, which has a decent cargo game, but they're very much a level 3 focus. 6919. I would say 832 even a little bit, right? Very good cargo, decent level 3 climb, but I think they have to push their game a little bit farther past the cargo ship. So,
But I will say I wouldn't be surprised if 4026 ends up seeding like in the top 3 at Columbus, just because they rely a lot on their level 3, but they can do it quick and they can play a lot of good defense match panels, so they aren't just like that one-trick pony.
That and they've essentially proven that they can do it like that. It's seamless for them to do it on a match-to-match basis, like we were talking about earlier. That consistency. There are some teams that have shown to be a little shaky when it comes to getting that level 3 climb on a match-to-match basis, but 4026 is one seems like you can count on.
I don't know if I consider defense a trick in like people's like repertoire of like available.
There's good defense and bad defense, right? And 4026 plays good defense. They don't just like go around not knowing what they're doing. They like target robots that are scoring. They switch off to take the highest scoring opponent like out of the game for a little bit.
Yeah,
they like play it smart.
Yeah. I tend to. Everything you're saying makes sense, but when I like say it out loud that like 4026 will seed top 3 because of their defense, I'm like But I feel like this year's game is also one of those games where if you are good at defense, you can definitely do some damage. Literally this year.
Yeah, for anybody interested, I'm trying to remember what their alliance number was, but if you want to go out and watch some quality defense, I think it was 4159 at the San Francisco Regional. They wound up making it all the way to finals against the 971 Cheesy Poofs Alliance, but they put on a clinic in semifinals for how to play some effective defense. They just sat right in between the rocket ship and the cargo bay and essentially cut off about half of the scoring opportunities for the opposing alliance, and they were a rock when teams trying to pass them.
Yeah. Speaking of good defense and like good getting around, I watched a match in Texas. It was 33-10 and 148. I believe it was the finals. And the finals, they got like the best defense that they could get thrown at them. And like 33-10 got like the brunt of the defense. I think it was semifinals, whatever. But 33-10 got like the brunt of the defense. And oh my God. Like the defense was fantastic. But watching 33-10 dance, like their robot was literally just dancing, like constantly moving, probing at angles, and it was like, damn, right? So I think we're about to see offensive robots really earn their money, right? Like earn their banners, because a lot of the offensive robots so far have been able to sort of do their own business, and then, when they get defensive attention, they're able to like move around it. But when you get a really, really strong defense robot, are you going to make that robot dance? Are you going to get to the scoring area, right? Because there's no safe zones. There's nothing like that. The only reprieve you might have is like the pin timer, right? Like once you get into position, a robot comes and hits you, and then you get like a couple of seconds of like pin freedom as like that robot has to back off, and like that's when you have to score, or else you're not going to get another chance until the pin timer resets. So yeah,
That's where I think once we start seeing that problem occur more and more often, or that level of defense, the counter defense strats are going to start to come out. So like teams are going to start saying, "All right, I need you to come over here and pin, or not pin, but play a pick."
Set a pick, or yeah.
I say yes, you're right, but I don't know how much it'll work, right? Because think about a team like 1771 coming over to play defense, right? Now you as an alliance can't put your second best scorer on counter, right?
Yeah.
The two of you have to go to work. So you're going to take your third pick, who so far has been mostly just like drivetrains and robots that are kind of able to do a little bit here and there. And you're going to have them play counter defense on 1771. I feel like more often than not, that counter defensive robot is just going to get in the way.
Well, I think that's where you get a lot of fun have a lot of fun as a drive coach, because you got to kind of not a drive coach or strategist out there. You're figuring out what robots you have to play with on your alliance. How do you use them to put together the right strategy to take on the other team? Sometimes that might involve sending one of your quality robots on defense just because they can play it that much better. Are they better suited to play offense as a third bot, or and during the match, as a drive coach, kind of making the calling an audible on, oh, they're coming to play defense, or we got to find a way to score somehow if they're playing shutdown defense.
Yeah.
You got to make some interesting calls in a very short amount of time for getting the win.
Yeah. I think if you're going to go counter defense, though, like just to go back to that, I think you're going to have to do it very, very early. Because once a robot penetrates like your side of the field, and like they're like in that back zone between the ship and like your human player, that's when things kind of get really messy, right? But if you can get somebody lined up like in the middle to kind of prevent teams from coming over, I think that's going to be your biggest sort of, or the best bet.
That's the other thing with counter defense, is if you're bringing back your robot you had initially sent for defense, if you're bringing them back, you then have 4 robots on your side of the field, and you're going to cause a lot of congestion.
Yeah.
So something to be aware of while you're strategizing.
You know what I'm picturing right now at district championships happening? So like you guys remember 2014 Einstein, right? With 1114 and 254's chess match, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like 1114 would try and predict which way 254 was going and use the connect to try and block their shot, right? I'm thinking, right, well, if a team is trying to send a defender over at the start, the other alliance is going to might send counter defense. So I'm imagining, right, the third robot on that alliance that's trying to play counter defense is going to set up their robot and position themselves to go and block the other defender at the very start of the match.
Man, what a chess move. So like, okay, hang on. So you have robots 1, 2, and 3 on one alliance, and then robots 1, 2, and 3 on another, right?
Yeah.
You're saying that one alliance would purposefully set up robot 3 on the opposite side of robot 3 so that they would block them from like coming over.
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting. But then, what if I'm like, but then I'm on the other side, right? Say I pick that up, right? After a couple matches, I'm like, oh crap, I catch on to what's happening. Then what if you like fake them out? Right? So say for example that robots 1, 2, and 3 line up, 1, 2, and 3 line up. Say this alliance like fakes 3, sends 2, right? And then when your 3 splits off to like actually go try and counter defend 2, they come back. This 3 crosses over.
Kind of like a feint.
Yeah, like a fake. Oh man, that's so good.
That is a really good. That's a good strategy. It wastes time on the defender's part, and it gets you. It does cost your number 2 robot scoring time, but gives your other robot time to get in and disrupt the other alliance. It's a gamble to take.
Yeah.
Kind of playing off of that a little bit for like you were saying for setting up particular robots on the side. Going back to those San Francisco Elims matches with 4159, particularly in the finals, you saw them. So they were in driver station number 3, I think, if I remember correctly. So they had 254 and 971 on the other alliance, which are pretty equally potent offensive robots. But I think they wound up picking 254 in the first match to play defense on, simply because their driver station was on that same side of the field, and they were going to have the visibility to play better defense on that robot than they were going to be able to play on the opposite corner of the field.
Yeah.
So that visibility, especially with how quickly you can rack up penalties on the other side of the field, there's a huge benefit to having the visibility lane down to the other side of the field.
I'm a little surprised, to be honest, that visibility lanes is that big of a deal, especially nowadays with like teams have like 50-foot cords attached to their controllers, right? So, share a driver station.
Yeah. We've encouraged our driver to, like, if you need to step back in order to see the hatch panel, if it's in or not, to do that. But any of the drivers that had driven, anybody that was on a drive team from like last year, knew how difficult it was, similar to 2017, that if you got behind the opponent's airship, or if you got behind the opponent's switch all the way at the other end of the field, you lose a lot of vision. It's hard to tell which way your robot's oriented. Yeah. So same case this year. Once you get behind the cargo ship on the other side of the field, it's easy to get lost.
Yeah.
First really likes putting giant random things in the middle of their field.
Well, yeah, but I mean, where else are they going to put stuff, right?
Yeah, that's true. So, we can't have teams in the 6 Neo era going full speed at each other, right?
Yeah, true that. Okay, so that's our little mid-season review. Let's go ahead and move on to the Columbus event, since it's kind of a juggernaut of an event. In my opinion, it's more exciting than Gainesville this past year, because like usually Gainesville is the most exciting event. Columbus as an event has been sort of up and coming, and this year it's just the who's who of robots. So I have down here, almost everyone is making their second run here, right? So, as good as you thought 1102 or 1414 were at Gainesville, they're going to be hopefully better at Columbus. But before we get into the robots, I'm going to start with the biggest showdown is Chairman's.
Oh, yeah.
So for those that remember, in Dalton Week 2, Walton did not win the Chairman's Award. It was 4910.
Yep.
Right? So that means that right now, 4188 Columbus Space Program and 2974 Walton are head-to-head for the Chairman's Award, right? And whoever doesn't win the Chairman's Award here currently won't qualify for it at state champs. Which is kind of interesting because they were sort of slated as the two favorites coming into the season. So it's potentially pretty big ramifications for them both, right? Both that have like outreach programs that have been building up. So what do you guys think? Who do you guys think is the favorite?
That's a tough one. Like 4188's program has just been on the up and up lately, and I know I think they have a huge part in like the Columbus district event and the Columbus region in general.
Yeah, I have heard, but I cannot confirm. I think they've actually helped with the financing for the Columbus event quite a bit, right? So I don't know if that's like they like directly give them money or they have like arranged sponsorships, but they have done a lot for the Columbus event.
Yeah, and like they just keep getting more and more initiatives and just building their program more and more. Whereas Walton's been kind of like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they have a very solid program and very good program.
Well, and looking at some numbers here, the last time they didn't win a Chairman's Award during the season was 2012. So it's been a while.
It's been a while, yeah. And like we don't know what it was at Dalton, if it was like the presentation, or like maybe their presenters weren't like feeling as hot about it, or maybe they just needed a little bit more swagger when they walked in.
Yeah. See, but like I personally don't know if so Walton has this like perennial aspect to their program, right? They've been winning it since 2012. They've been sort of one of the keystone programs in our district. But I feel like 4188 just has that hometown punch that's like really hard to ignore, right?
Yeah.
What they've done for their district, and apparently they're like pulling out all the stops for Columbus chairmans. So if you're a judge from Columbus who's potentially seen 4188 all over the district, who's seen their improvements, has judged them year after year, I respect both programs and what they bring. I just don't know if Walton can overcome that hometown punch that 4188 brings.
Well, and to give Walton their dues, obviously Sherman's has that prestige to it, but they do have an EI that they're going in the state champs with a chance to win one of those state champs EIs that then gets them the
free ticket to Worlds. Right?
Yeah, I'd take that any day.
Yeah, and $5,000, right?
Wait,
screw it, like
free ticket and $5,000, or like $5,000.
You got mixed up there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, free.
$5,000 for the free ticket.
Yeah, $5,000 free ticket to Worlds.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, credit to their program for obviously it's not a chairman's, but it's hard to call it much less than that.
That's better than chairman's, right? And chairman's, you get a banner, right?
It's better than chairman's?
Yeah, EI, they pay your entrance fee.
All right, all you chairman's teams, you can email anyone with your thoughts about chairman's versus EI.
Yeah, I mean, money over blue banners, I'm taking money. Right? Banners don't give me value other than to my ego.
You want green banners?
I don't know. Let's get red banners for EI, I don't know.
Money. Okay. So let's move on to the actual teams and who's going to be showing up. So... give me your teams to watch, and since we are a little light on hosts and we are pretty heavy on teams, let's throw out a couple if you got them.
So you can sit here. I can pick like 5 teams here.
A couple.
Let's go in a order, right? 1, 1, 1, then a few more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It's serpentine.
Yeah, you get some time to think about your second team.
Do you have the Jeopardy music like queued up?
No.
I mean, I'm ready to go. I can go for days on this team
God.
list here. So
Just go.
There's
all
too
right,
many
I'm
teams.
starting out with 14-14, just looking towards the top of the list. A lot of quality choices, but I'm interested in seeing. This is a program that's really got their foot on the gas. So I'm excited to see. They came out of the gates strong in Gainesville.
Got a picture of them.
Really interested in seeing. Yeah, they are one of the teams that has it on the blue lines. If you want to pull that up.
Yep.
But I'm interested in seeing what they're doing. Again, going back to the consistency thing, just making sure they're climbing, getting that level 3 on a match-to-match basis, and if they're scoring as proficiently as they were week 1 and improving upon that, I think they're going to be one of our clear-cut best teams in the district for that skill set.
Right. Good to know. 14-14. I don't know. 14-14's always just kind of been the team that it looks like they have everything, right? The robot looks fantastic. They're like seem to be coded. Like Sandstorm performance is like there. But when they try and put it all together, when they show up on the field, whether it's eliminations or whatever, they just seem to misfire. Which, okay, Gainesville this past Gainesville was not a fair look, right? But even last season, they had a fantastic looking robot. They had a fantastically engineered robot, but they just weren't able to perform when it mattered, right?
I will say that by district championships, they were performing, and like they performed to an amazing level last year, but they just couldn't overcome that number 1 alliance.
Yeah.
But like earlier in the district season, they had some hiccups and eliminations, and it was like, I think they just need to like have that one win to overcome all that.
Yeah, just like get them over the hump. Yeah.
Yeah, I think once they get that one win, they'll be like, they'll have, I don't know, I think that'll kickstart like them winning a bunch.
Yeah, and to sort of call from experience, not having that one win can be kind of suffocating because you're constantly trying to tune and like be better, and when you don't get those wins coming into a good program, it's kind of like, what are we missing? But yeah, so my pick, I'm gonna go with a safe pick. I'm gonna go with Walton, 2974.
Always a safe pick.
My 2 things to look out for them is, number 1, do they add a level 3 climb? Because I think if like they watched themselves play at Dalton, they had a fantastic game, but they really just couldn't break through the fact that they weren't getting that 1 RP every match, right? So do they add a level 3 climb, which isn't terribly difficult to pull off? You put a couple of stilts and bam, you're up. And the second thing is, how do they respond to defense? Which at a packed event like this, I think they have a solid target in their backs from like being like one of the best like core dynamic robots.
Yeah.
I think defense is going to be on them from match 1, and we'll have to see how they respond. Right.
They're lucky that they have access to like the practice field at their facility and everything. I bet they've been practicing around defense, especially like Dalton finals, right? We saw how hard that they were affected by 1771. Mm-hmm. So I would put good money on them practicing with a defender since then.
Yeah, that's even before this event has started. That is the team to watch out for. As we discussed on our previous show, it was very identifiable what issues Walton needed to fix, regardless of level 3. That they were as potent as they were on hatches and cargo, even with a slow elevator, with a little work to do on their cargo intake. I'm scared about. If I was another team at that event, I'd be really scared about Walton.
Yeah. All right, Anupam, who you got?
Well, I think I'm gonna go with another obvious one here in Team 1102, Making Magic. It's been a while since they've competed, back in week 1, and they exited semis on that kind of, I'm just gonna say it's kind of a BS note. But I think they've most likely put in the work to improve their mechanisms, improve their climb, and like maybe even put on a new hatch mech. I don't know. They're one of those teams that kind of does some mid-season iterations, and they do it pretty well. So I wouldn't be surprised to see them like come into the event with some pretty cool new changes.
I think they're one of those teams. They're going to come into this event with a fire in their eyes for chasing after a win. Again, like you said, for the unfortunate circumstances leading to their exit at Gainesville, I think they're going to come in with a passion. I think for going after a W in Columbus.
Yeah. So you said changes. I mean, when I look at the robot from Gainesville, I think the only thing that could really be improved from Gainesville, like physically, might be their level 3 climb.
Yeah, just the consistency of it. I think there are a few their bumpers would catch for not quite getting up right to the level.
Yeah, I'm not sure what exactly the details were, but they like rely on like skids, like roller skids to kind of slide the front of the robot up. I think it's clear that the way to go is to use your intake to push down on the front, push down on the front, push down from the back, and go. So they have to push down on the back. And they have a massive intake that I feel like if they just reinforce a little, they could definitely push down from the front. So they might have the pieces to really shore that up. But other than that, they look like they had all the pieces. Maybe just a little more driver practice, and they could probably be there. So
their drivers look pretty darn well practiced too. So like, especially
at the end of Gainesville, they were rolling. Like they were hands down the best cargo bot in my opinion. Because I think that Mechanism drivetrain or whatever they have going on.
Like I think it's an Octocanum with like an extra 2 Omni wheels in there for good measure.
Whatever. Like they were moving from cargo bay to the cargo ship so quickly, right? It was kind of scary. So
yeah, they're definitely the team to beat. Walton gave they had a more resounding win, but 1102, I think, in my mind, is the team to beat there.
Yeah. All right, Kellen, who's your number 2?
All right, number 2, huh?
Yeah, who's your second pick?
Don't you do it.
There's so many options. Don't you do it. I'm going to give a shout out to a team that got off to a strong start this last weekend. Maybe not the next best in my mind compared to the 3 we just talked about, but somebody who had a good, strong showing for their first week. I'm going to go with 4941, I believe was the 4th Alliance captain this past weekend.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly. But had a strong showing for both cargo and hatches. Not one of our climbers for a level 3er, but somebody I think is going to have some continuing improvement throughout the season for getting better and building out that cargo and hatch game. Be one of those complements to a level 3 climber. So if they're not ranked up there, I imagine RoboBib is likely going to be one of those top set of picks for alliance selections.
Yeah, so RoboBib was the captain of the 4th seed. And personally, I was pleasantly heartened to see the way they came out, because the past 2 years they built relatively simple robots, right? So they've built relatively simple robots and they did really well. So it was kind of a question up in the air that are they going to be able to land on their feet? Are they going to choose a more sophisticated design? And looks like they have. They have an elevator system and they're honestly pretty up there, right?
If you look at their driving and their chassis is quick. Their drivers seem to know what they're doing when they're driving it.
Mm-hmm.
And their elevator is quick and all their mechanisms seem to work pretty fluid.
Yeah. I personally don't think that they'll be a high seed. I don't see them on the 1st or 2nd seed at Columbus. But I think they could play a pretty good role on an alliance that comes in from the bottom, number 6 or number 7, right? One of those really shocker, just imagine 3 49-41s, right? Which is something you could get at Columbus. I think they have the potential to pull one of those upset runs into the finals again. So it could be pretty good. Yeah. For my pick, I'm going to go with a bit of a sleeper, Ura sleeper. I'm going to go with 7427.
Ooh.
So 7427 is a rookie team. I think they're a spin-off of another program. They were at Dalton where I'm trying to see exactly how they finished. They were in the quarters, but
They had a pretty decent let's talk about the robot for a sec, right?
Mm-hmm.
They got Neo Swerve on it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful white
Swerve?
robot. Yes, they have a Swerve drive on that. It's a rookie team.
So check me on this. I think that's the first Swerve drive in the state of Georgia ever.
Ever? It's not ever. I know 1771 or one of those teams had it way back when. At some point, I'm pretty sure they had one.
I know 1771 was playing with a Swerve way back when. I don't ever
Never
recall
made it
them
on a combat,
fielding one.
but I'd have to wager there's been a Swerve drive somewhere in Georgia.
All right.
You've been around longer than I have in this state, so I'll give it.
Okay, look it up, prove me wrong, but I think they are the first Swerve bot out here. And yeah, they have a pretty decent robot, but I think you're going to say some more things about it.
Well, I was impressed with the fact that they've got that Neo Swerve, but I was watching them at Dalton. Towards the end of it, they started dialing their presets and started to have some automation going. They had a bit of a rough time with cargo, I think, but if they were to shore up their cargo mechanism, they could be potent at the cargo game. And I don't know how secret or how big of a secret this is, but I saw some footage of what could be a level 3 climb.
Man, I was gonna drop that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so it looks like they have a level 3 climb. Looks like it's one of those pneumatic gripper boys. So I don't know how this happens, but I could see them firstly with a good level 3 climb that's supposed to complement another one. I could see them going into a position where they are very high seed. I could also see them coming into a position where they're kind of low seed, but they're bringing 2 climbs with them, right? So if they can climb, I don't think 4026 would really complement their climb very well. I'm trying to think of another robot that would climb, but leave them room to climb with that might rank a little low, but no one really comes to mind. But
well, regardless of any kind of double climb, the availability, or if one of those level 3 climbers again is playing a role as an alliance captain for those 6, 7, 8 seeds, like we were saying, if 49, 41s are available, you're going to get some of those dangerous robots as a nice filled out alliance. So they might not be the strongest elsewhere in the game, but if you're hitting the seeding just right, there's some fun things that can happen down there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're a very high seed, maybe 3 or 4, right? Do you pick them up? Maybe they don't have the best hatch and cargo game, but if you can level 3 climb, do you pick them up just to have that second climb and assume that whatever shortfall they have on the core game, they're going to make up with that bonus level 3 climb. Right? So I think they're definitely a little bit of a dark horse with respect to how they show up at this event.
Yeah, they've got some flexibility in what they can do and how they can play, and they would be definitely a good pick for any low seed or even like high seeded alliance member if they just needed that climb or if they needed that cargo.
Strategic sandbag.
Oh yeah,
that's all I'll say. All right, Anupam, what's your second pick?
I'm gonna go with my former team, G3 Robotics, 1648. I love those kids. They coming into Gainesville. They were getting their design or getting their programming shored up. They have a decent looking design and a kind of unique little shot into the cargo ship, but they've been using this time between competitions to work on presets for their arm, and I think once they have all those controls dialed in, they'll do some surprising things, I think, with either with the cargo or even with the rocket.
Cool.
I don't know.
I agree with you. An interesting team to watch throughout the season. I guess I'm getting lost here because I feel like I'm looking at some of these teams on this list and I'm like, they have to have been mentioned already. Why
don't we go with teams that you think will be more dark horses or go under the radar?
Well, hang on. So we've already done 2, and we're running a little low on time. So I feel like if we stop to talk about every team that should be talked about, we're going to be here for like another half hour.
Oh, I'm gonna give them. Can I give them quick shout outs?
Yeah. Let's do quick shout outs.
I think it's incredible that these teams haven't been mentioned yet, considering 4026 ranked number 1 at their first event and walked away with a W there for a team that's a consistent level 3-er. 4188, a strong showing for ranking 3 getting to finals. I'm interested in seeing what their modifications are. Have we talked about 4910?
No, that's surprising.
Exactly. We're talking about some killer teams coming here. These are going to be towards the top of the heap for those level 3 climbers and scoring cargo and hatches.
Yeah.
But as we mentioned earlier, I think this is going to be an event to watch for some really strong alliances, button heads and Elam. So keep your eyes open this weekend.
We give a shout out to Trevor and his favorite team, 7315's showing up. They were the third ranked alliance captain, or were they an alliance captain?
I think they were one of the top picks. I think they also ranked pretty high, if I remember.
They were like one of those cargo bots that was just like on point.
They were ranked 6th, and they were the first pick of the 3rd seed.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think they have an every bot design, right? So definitely another strong team that. I don't think they'll go early in the seedings, but I think that they're definitely going to get into eliminations, and depending on the alliance, they could really help boost it. So,
yeah.
Another interesting team, a little bit more of a role player. There's a Toaster Tech 5332, one of those strong cargo bots you're going to see.
Toasty boys.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, they're pretty good at. They have a decent cargo game, and I think they've probably been practicing and improving that too. So,
yeah, I think Toaster Tech also teased like a pretty interesting hatch mechanism that comes out and it flattens up against the hatch in one motion. So I don't know. I imagine the first event they went to at Dalton, cargo just became too important to ignore. But I figure that they've been working on their hatch game so far, and now going into Columbus, they're really gonna make a dent on that front. So.
That, and if you haven't seen the reveal video yet, make sure you check that out. Top quality production over there, Toaster Tech crew.
We need more reveal videos in this state.
Yeah.
More than anything else, more than the swerve, we need more really good reveal videos.
Our reveal video would have been the robot sitting, just not moving because. That's how we showed up to Gainesville.
It probably wouldn't have even been that. It would have just been the chassis and the elevator structure.
Yeah.
Reveal.
2 separate pieces laying on the ground, not built yet. So it's.
Yeah.
We always intend to. Never quite happens.
Idea for next year: Peach Pit reveal night. Let's compete with fun and official first, I guess.
Some PCH insights.
Aren't they the same now? fun and official first.
Actually, First took it over kind of this year. I don't know if there's any coordination or collaboration between the two, but
Hey, you.
we're doing this now, and we conveniently set our time and date a day before yours or something like that. But.
All right, fair enough. Okay. So, any closing thoughts? Any remarks before we end?
I'm looking forward to Columbus. I'll be game announcing there for a little bit, so
You better bring the noise.
yeah, I'll bring the hype.
I said bring the noise. I don't want any hype.
Well, how are you gonna have hype with or noise without hype?
You can just speak louder.
All right,
Louder.
louder.
Okay. Callan, any closing remarks?
I'm excited for the event this weekend. I think we're going to see some really good matches.
What are we going to... Okay, we'll talk about this next week, but for you guys to let it simmer, what are we going to see from Otto in Forsyth? We'll talk about it next week. Something for the viewers, to be continued. And on that note, we're going to end the show.
All right, see y'all next week.